conversation. The dialogue we're having today, it's very critical and it's very close to our hearts as Ugandans, as global citizens, and as Africans. Today we are discussing something very strong, and I want to thank the funders, the consortium that has brought this conversation fast forward, the Supreme Security Protection Economic Empowerment Program in Uganda, not forgetting the European Union in Uganda, and the World Vision, as well as Zoe, SNV, and any other, and we have the Rice, West Nile, and the other partners to this. My name is Andrew Chamagda, and I'll be your host today, and those joining us from the other side of the world, whether you're watching us on TV or you're following this conversation on Zoom, I want to welcome you to this conversation. Now, just to bring you to speed, Uganda ranks the largest refugee hosting country in Africa and the third largest worldwide after Turkey and Pakistan. The refugee hosted are in 30 settlements spread over 13 districts. Now, to these, 62% of the refugee population is in the districts of northern Uganda, or you can call it West Nile. Over 70% of these refugees are South Sudanese living within West Nile districts, and more than 80 of these are children and women. 66% of these Ugandan refugees are under the age of 18. Now, despite feeling secure and welcome, the refugee population in Uganda lives in precarious conditions. About 48% of these in the country are living in poverty, and 3 out of 4 refugees are unemployed. Just to understand and to bring to this to context, Terego and Madi Okolo currently hosts 170,895 refugees with a host population of 891,700, while Obongi and Moyo, they host 120,563 refugees with a host population of 155,200. Today, the conversation we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a usual conversation. You and I believe that refugees are part of us, and at one time, you and I will be a refugee, depending on the dynamics of the world. So today we are having a dialogue on supporting the economic welfare of the refugees and the host communities amidst the COVID-19. To bring this to speed, we're going to start off with a conversation. This is an introduction opening statement that is going to come from the World Vision UK, who happen to be our partners in this conversation. And after this, I'll return shortly.
Greetings from World Vision UK. My name is Helen Doyley, one of the directors here at World Vision UK. We are so grateful and honoured by the trust bestowed on us to deliver the Security, Protection and Economic Empowerment Programme, known as Supreme. We would have loved to be with you today, but we're so grateful that at least we can join you through technology. The Supreme Programme is a truly collaborative effort whose current and future success rests on the efforts of various important partners and stakeholders. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank those stakeholders and partners of Supreme. We, World Vision UK, as the consortium lead, extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Government of Uganda for the opportunity to partner on this flagship programme, which will bring lasting change to refugees in the West Nile region of Uganda. We acknowledge and congratulate the Government of Uganda for their efforts in supporting refugees. We recognise Uganda's refugee-friendly policies that guarantee freedom of movement, the right to employment, the right to education, the right to health, and the right to start a business and provision of plots of land to refugees so they can farm and construct shelters. In the whole of Africa, this exceptional approach and hospitality is unique to Uganda. It is these policies that have made the implementation of Supreme possible. And this is because the Supreme activities complement the efforts of the Government of Uganda in creating livelihood and employment opportunities for both refugee and host communities. The Supreme Consortium also extends heartfelt gratitude to the European Union and the European taxpayers for the generous funding provided for the programme, without which the Supreme programme and the impact we are seeing and will see more of during and post the life of the programme would not be possible. We also acknowledge and appreciate the ongoing guidance and support in the implementation of the project. As indicated, Supreme is a consortium with a total of 6 organisations. Without these organisations, the programme would not be possible, as each partner is delivering impact through their experience in economic empowerment programming and through their geographic presence in the 4 target districts. World Vision UK therefore extends gratitude to firstly World Vision Uganda, who are also a member of the World Vision International Federated Partnership and are the World Vision International in-country implementing partner for Uganda. World Vision Uganda bring their local knowledge and experience to bear in Supreme, especially in 2 areas. Firstly, savings and development clusters, which are the locus of operation for the Supreme interventions. Secondly, the farmer-managed natural regeneration, or FMNR, technique, which supports farmers and communities to adapt and become more resilient to climate extremes. FMNR does this through increasing food and timber production, conserving soil and water, increasing food security, and restoring productive natural resources. We'd also like to thank World Vision Austria, who are supporting Supreme through providing pre-financing financial contribution and oversight support together with us at World Vision UK. Thirdly, we'd like to thank SNV, Foundation of Netherlands Volunteers. They are bringing impact in Supreme through their work supporting young people across the 4 target districts to get into employment using their Opportunities for Youth employment model. I won't go into the details of these approaches and models, as the different partners will be sharing about these later on when Supreme will be live streaming via YouTube a webinar featuring the field teams from different consortium partners. The teams will talk about the specific components of their work in the districts that they are implementing Supreme. Fourthly, we want to thank ZOA, who are also based in the Netherlands and delivering impact for Supreme through the Enabling Rural Innovation approach. This supports the refugee and host communities to engage in market research, which enables them to create market linkages that lead greater economic engagement. And lastly, we want to thank the Rural Initiative for Community Empowerment in West Nile. Supreme is proud to be partnering with this local organisation. Through this partnership, Supreme ensures the sustainability of the outcomes through the deliberate action to develop the capacity of local organisations in implementing programmes to international standards. I'd now like to say a few words about the global refugee context. The UNHCR reported that globally, as of the end of 2020, 68% of all refugees came from 5 countries: the Syrian Arab Republic, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. The same source also reports that 39% of refugees created into violence in some refugee settlements. Supreme acknowledges and extends heartfelt gratitude for the provision of land from the government of Uganda and their refugee-friendly policies. But despite these excellent efforts, refugees are still faced with challenges, including access to land to engage in agricultural production. Therefore, there is opportunity for further support for refugees for economic empowerment activities. World Vision UK would like to thank all partners and stakeholders involved with Supreme. I'll now hand over to my colleague in World Vision Austria to talk about the Supreme response given these needs.
Greetings from Austria. My name is Daniel Streit and I'm the head of operations of World Vision Austria. As already indicated, I will share with you how the Supreme program is responding to the needs that had been identified. The Supreme program is designed to deliver the overall outcome of increasing access to formal employment and economic opportunities for refugees and host communities. This is delivered through 3 outputs. First, the increased financial inclusion and social cohesion among savings and development clusters, the so-called SDCs. Second, the development of sustainable agricultural value chains and non-agricultural enterprises. And third, the linkage of young women and men aged 18 to 30 from SDC member households to private sector employment. The implementing partners are operating in different districts, with World Vision Uganda delivering the first and second outputs in Obongi, Moyo and Terego districts. SOA delivering the first and second outputs in the Terego and Mario Kolo districts. RISE West Nile is delivering the first and second outputs in Obongi and Moyo districts. And SNV is delivering the second and third outputs in all 4 districts. Allow me to also share the main achievements of Supreme so far. The program, which started in July 2020, is in its second year of implementation and to date has achieved the following. Supreme has reached a total of 183,640 beneficiaries, out of which 27,372 are direct beneficiaries. Members of the 1,000 SDCs. 40% of those are refugees and 60% from the host communities. 70% are female and 30% male. In addition, there are 156,268 indirect beneficiaries. As already mentioned, the program has identified and selected 1,000 savings and development clusters where the SDCs that were already in existence at the start of the program were supported to continue saving. These savings groups are going strong and have been providing loans to members and using their savings to pay out and start small enterprises. 900 of the SDC groups have received training to build the technical capacity to identify and start profitable enterprise opportunities. 268 SDCs have identified enterprises and have supported them with inputs, tools and seeds to set up 268 demonstration gardens to increase income and contribute to employment creation. Youth have been screened and 1,000 have been identified and selected to join business, technical and vocational education training institutions to enhance their employability and business development and management skills, and for them to subsequently be linked to the private sector. 30 private sector businesses have been selected to receive 270,000 euros through the Challenge Fund mechanism. This fund supports the private sector to be able to respond to the needs of the program beneficiaries through investing in activities that enhance agricultural production, processing and marketing, such as supporting climate-smart agricultural production, post-harvesting handling support, supporting transport and infrastructure services, access to quality agro inputs, and technology and knowledge transfer, just to name a few. In the coming months, the program will provide economic stimuli that will create jobs and build livelihoods through the Block, Enterprise and Challenge Fund grants for refugees and host communities, as well as the private sector. The Block grants are unconditional cash transfer and non-competitive grants to the 1,000 savings development clusters, the SDCs, for income diversification and micro-enterprise development, allowing the SDCs to make basic investments in market-relevant activities. It is intended to spur production at household level to support selected value chains. The enterprise development grants, the EDGs, on the other hand, will leverage private investment to test and/or scale inclusive business models. The EDG is intended to support motivated and market-ready youth who are selected from the targeted SDCs to engage in value chain and viable non-agricultural enterprises by providing them with a startup grant. The Challenge Fund, which I have summarized above, unlike the Block and Enterprise grant, is a competitive business grant, and activities will continue under this fund. Supreme will also introduce farmers to the Farmer Managed Natural Regeneration, FMNR, approach. This is a low-cost land restoration technique involving systematic regrowth of trees and shrubs to restore soil structure and fertility, control erosion and soil moisture evaporation, rehabilitate springs and the water table, and increase biodiversity. FMNR, an approach developed by World Vision, is expected to bring positive impact to the West Nile region, which has experienced massive deforestation, especially in refugee-hosting districts.
Well, indeed, the conversation from the video that came from the UK, World Vision UK, and that from SNV, that is the rice video, it's very clear that the approach is meant to support West Nile that has witnessed a massive deforestation, especially in the refugee hosting areas. Now, that said, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Honorable Jessica Ababiku, the chairperson of the Presidential Affairs Committee and the woman member of Parliament from Adjuman District, to address us as a keynote address today. Round of applause for her, ladies and gentlemen.
The country director, World Food Programme, European Union delegation, head of livelihood, European Union delegation, head of cooperation, staff of United Nations High Commission for Refugees, World Vision, LC5 chairperson for Moyo District, who is also the chairperson for all the LC5 chairpersons in West Nile, other development partners, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so grateful to be part of this dialogue, but allow me convey the apology of Honorable Minister, Engineer Hilary Onek, who is responsible for this docket of refugees affairs, who would have loved to be here with us, but because of other competing priorities of government, he could not make it. But he is with us, and he has requested me to convey his apology, but also he has assured us about his commitment in ensuring the success of this program in West Nile, but also in this country. I am the chair of Presidential Affairs Committee, as I also put the shoes of the Honourable Minister, but I'll limit myself so much on the role of Parliament. Therefore, first of all, I want to thank this invite to allow Parliament of Uganda to give its input. Parliament of Uganda, as one of the arms of government, supports government of Uganda in ensuring unwavering support to humanity, especially to the displaced. And that's why we are hosting many refugees in the country, and Parliament has played a lot of support in supporting government initiatives, in offering this unwavering support. As we have this dialogue today, Uganda is hosting over 1 million refugees in Uganda from different origins, majorly from South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, and from other origins. This hospitality of the country cannot be compared to any currency, cannot therefore be related to any currency. In Africa, Uganda is leading in hosting refugees. This defines our hospitality and value that we attach to humanity. And therefore, it is a call to serve God and humanity. As Parliament, through our roles, we shall continue to support government of this country. The major priority of this government is to sustain peace, security, and stability within the country, but also outside. But where our country is faced with challenges and problems, resulting into having influx of refugees into our country, the government and our country provides for an alternative home and supports the human rights of the victims. Therefore, as Parliament, we shall continue to support the government initiative and the hospitality through performance of our various roles and responsibility. Our Constitution has given for us our major mandate, that is legislation. We are proud as government, we are proud as Parliament, and therefore as Uganda, because we have a very good legislation over which we are so proud and celebrated widely. The Refugees Act of 2006. It has opened a lot of open windows on how to support the refugees in our country. And I'm confident to say that even this program, which has brought us here, is operating because of the enabling legislation that we have as a country. Therefore, Parliament has supported government initiative in having this very good legislation that has enabled over 1 million refugees to stay and have alternative home in our country. But paramountly, our government wishes well for every state that is going through this uncomfortable forced displacement of their people to Uganda. Apart from having this enabling legislation, through our rules of procedure, we have relevant committees to support in achieving the focus of our government. The main committee is the Presidential Affairs Committee, where we house refugees-related issues. But apart from our committee, we also have other committees that join us in handling cross-cutting issues, especially the Committee for Human Rights, Gender and Social Development, and others where need arises. As a country, last year, through the Committee of Presidential Affairs, we were able to legislate and have the amendment of Uganda Red Cross Society bill approved by Parliament. And it has provided for a key provision for refugees through consideration of the refugees' situation as a man-made situation, disaster. And I'm proud about it. We did it. We are waiting for the assentment of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. As a committee, we are also fast-tracking the refugees policy. 3 weeks ago, we met the team of officers from Office of the Prime Minister on the same issue to fast-track, because we want to have a better policy in order to support our brothers and sisters who got themselves into this country. In relation to the effects of COVID-19 to the welfare, economic welfare of the victims, let's say the refugees and the host communities, the effects did not spare any part of this world, inclusive of Uganda, but the experience that goes on in the host communities and in the settlements, to me, is worse than compared to other settlements of the nationals in this country. Because the refugees and host communities are in a unique environment. They are already vulnerable. They are already disadvantaged. So COVID-19 added on their situation. Therefore, we need to have a special attention to ensure that the part of community that is in the camp and in the host community is highly supported. As we go to the specifics of this program of SPRIM, I want also to thank the development partners for other programs that we are having as refugees hosting communities. I want to appreciate that. And we shall continue as government, as parliament, to ensure that positive impact is realized through these various programs. On this SPRIM specifically, we are so happy, and as the chair of Presidential Affairs Committee, I see lending a hand to those who are in abject poverty and giving hope to them to have a second chance in realization of self-reliance. It's not about how much you have, but what can meet your basic needs that can keep you going. So I want to thank the orchestrators of this program. Parliament is aware about the operation of this program because last year when the Prime Minister launched this program, Parliament was informed. So as Committee of Presidential Affairs Committee, as Parliament, we are aware about this program. But we take note about the effects of COVID-19 on this program. COVID-19 has slowed in the pace of operation of all activities. Therefore, it has also impacted on this activity. If it came before the COVID time, probably the implementation modes will be different. But COVID determined the implementation mode, and we know the characteristics of our population. So I am requesting that we should be able to review our operational mechanisms where necessary, because you are dealing with people who are already at disadvantage, you are dealing with people who are dramatized, you are dealing with people who are in abject poverty. But I want also to recognize the successes of this program. I come from a Juman district, but I directly border many of the districts that are benefiting from this program. I got in touch with some of the leaders. They have informed me about the success stories. We are happy about it. But however, I have a proposal that let us look at the increasing population of the refugees, even without the influx, because naturally people keep producing. We should not look at the factor of influx as a facilitating drive to increase our population of refugees and host communities. There are natural factors that determine this. So I am of the opinion that let's increase the funding to this program, but also roll it out. There are many districts in West Nile are hosting refugees, but we are operating in limited areas. But also, most importantly, with or without COVID, this program is needed. With or without COVID, we need this program. The people in both of the communities are in abject poverty. So I pray for the rollout of this program in the areas of financing, which falls under our role of appropriation. As Parliament, we shall do our best, and we have ever done it. When the need arises, Parliament supports appropriation to support host communities and also the refugees. For example, we have the Dr. Deep. It came to Parliament. We were able to do our best. Through representation, we also ensure that services that go out are non-discriminative. We share service points with the refugees. We don't stop them from getting services from our service points. In relation to oversight, we shall go and monitor, but we don't want to only go to the field when there are problems. So let us build a high level of collaboration. We should always be there as a team to provide checks and balance so that we safeguard the objective of this program for the good of our people, both the refugees and host communities. I therefore, in summary, recommend that all the partners in this program should be able to fulfill their commitments so that as a team we shall be able to achieve what we want. 2, there should be increased financing to cater for the increasing population. As we are seated here, there is high level of influx of refugees from DRC to our country. We request for a rollout of this program. Lastly, we recommend for information sharing and high level of coordination. As Parliament, we find it easy if our local governments are respected and involved at all phases of implementation of programs. Because if our LC5 chairpersons are not happy, don't expect Parliament to be happy, because they regularly brief us about activities that take place in our districts. As Parliament, I can pledge that as a committee, we shall be able to ensure that we have appropriate legislation that will protect the rights of the refugees. We shall be able to ensure that there is fair financing where the need arises. We shall be able to provide checks and balance. And lastly, we shall be able to voice out the voices of the disadvantaged communities that we have. With all this, I wish everybody a very good deliberation, and we pledge our commitment to ensure the success of this program. I've said all this for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. That is the woman member of Parliament of Adjumani, Honorable Jessica Babiku, and she happens to be the chairperson of the Presidential Affairs Committee in Parliament. Those joining us online, I've seen a couple of feedback, and I'm grateful for those of you from the Kigezi sub-region, the hospitality you exhibited at the start of this week when we had the insurgency that was in the northern Kivu province of Congo. We appreciate you for that. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome the European Union delegation representative here for this conversation, Nadia Kanata, and she happens to be the head of section of sustainable development under the EU delegation, to address us about the same issue of refugees. Nadia.
Honorable Ababiku, thank you very much for your encouraging words. Colleagues from local government, from the implementing partners, from the press, thanks a lot for gathering today. It's more and more rare to be able to be together, but slowly we are trying to find the hybrid versions to still be able to have dialogues on important matters like the one that we will discuss today. And I want to start by referring to what our host mentioned really as introduction, that Uganda has a terrific reputation as a refugee hosting country. And the data have been already managed, the numbers have been said, but I really want to reiterate this because it's a country that is considered as an example internationally. And this is very much reflected in the way our livelihood programs refugees and host communities. We have been working on the refugee response now since end of 2016. A lot of work has taken place. I know that, of course, all the needs cannot be met only by one partner, so we really need to cooperate on this. But what is true is that COVID pandemic has impacted the livelihoods across the country. And of course, when we look at refugee hosting districts, we are talking about highest levels of vulnerability and already very high level of poverty in those districts. So a pandemic like COVID can really have a very bad impact in deteriorating a situation that is already quite difficult. So these levels of poverty, so we need really to merge them and
Check one, two. Check one, two.
I would like to say this
Check
because
mic one, two.
this could really
Check
lead
one,
in
two.
the
Check.
districts to very negative coping
Check one, two. Check,
strategies
check,
in
check.
terms of
One, two.
livelihoods,
Hello, hello.
which projects like those
Check
that we
one, two.
support
Check one, two.
really
Hello,
help
hello.
to avoid. This and I really want to thank them for this. And I would like to take a very few words just to explain which type of approach a program like Supreme is promoting in the districts where we work. We are really trying to increase access to employment together with economic opportunities. And by doing this, we try to be as inclusive as possible. To do that, you need to look at financial issues, economic issues, but also social issues. And you need to work in an integrated manner. You need to work on building skills, but also on building business knowledge in working with groups, most of them already established, but also new ones can be created across those programs. And then, to make it sustainable, you really need to link this work to the private sector. And in this, the private sector plays a very important role in every livelihood program. So we have really tried, and this will be more discussed during the panel discussion, to promote this type of approach across our programs, and in particular through Supreme. But I would also like to say that in reality we work across many different sectors, and one pattern that we can really see in each and every program that we support is that most of them have livelihood components. If it is working on governance, if it is working on environment, on disaster risk reduction, you always need to put a livelihood component in everything you do to make it really work and sustainable and reach to the most vulnerable. Looking at this, another thing we are really trying to strengthen in the past years is how the humanitarian work, which is the immediate response, and the longer term needs can go together. This is what we call the nexus approach. So we are really trying to promote the nexus approach, and the way the EU Trust Fund is managed and is implemented is the example of this nexus approach. Because while we take into account the basic needs of a more sort of humanitarian response, we try to build the longer-term needs that in any case will continue beyond an immediate response. So this is really at the core of the UTF, and this is what we have been really trying to do through our programs like Supreme over the past years. Let me take really few last words to say that, of course, this cannot be done without a very strong leadership from the government. And this is where really, I think, I go back to my initial words in thanking the government. And in terms of livelihood, let me mention that everything we do needs to be anchored in the Jobs and Livelihood Integrated Response Plan for refugees and host communities. And this is really an approach that Uganda has really put forward, of having sectoral plans that allow all the partners to be able to also be accountable against the priorities that are on those plans. So it's really a very strong joint work that is done at national, district level, and between the government and the partner. And in this regard, I would like to go back to something that was mentioned by Honorable Ababiku, which is the really important need for collaboration and partnership with the local authorities, with the central level, across different ministries. And these type of plans are a very good example of this, because they are led by sectoral ministries and by UPM, but also among implementing partners, donors, civil society, everybody that is involved. So I know we tend to reiterate this in every event, but because it's a very important point, the partnership one. We cannot work alone, and we cannot work in a silo. We really need to work together. This is why I'm really happy that in the panel today we have representatives from different type of organizations and institutions. And let me end by really giving just words of appreciation to the organizers, in particular World Vision, SNV, ZOA, RISE, West Nile for organizing this, and NTV for hosting us, and to wish a very fruitful panel discussion, because I think that will be really the important moment where some ideas can be shared and maybe brought forward in the actions that will take place in the field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadia. It's very critical and very open that the partners, especially European Union, are doing incredibly great. I was talking earlier to one of your teams, and I appreciated European Union for the work well done, especially with the refugee communities. Ladies and gentlemen, like she alluded to, this program is going to have a very different approach. But one thing that is very critical here is that they're looking at placements of 1,000 youth in vocational schools, and setting up 1,000 demonstration gardens, training over 1,000 groups in financial literacy, and the value chain analysis and studies equally going to be done. This program is going to look at training on local capacities for peace, that is the peaceful coexistence, and the procurement of all hand tools for the demonstration sites to make sure that they see reality at the end of the day. Now let's have a look at this is another clip of that shows you the activities of this kind of program in the field. Those on TV, let's have a look at this.
And we decided to register with them.
We started with the identification of existing groups to work with in the project. We now did validation in conjunction with the sub-county authorities in the 4 sub-counties, and through vetting, we came up with the 266 SDCs. We are working with them currently.
Before RISE came in, we found it difficult to get income, because we cannot be able to plant bigger than what is in here, right, as in now. But when they gave us knowledge, we are able to make it in a bigger way.
With the groups, we have done much. We have engaged them in several trainings, One of them was skilling them the knowledge of modern farming, that is farming as a business. They are real that transitioning from subsistence production for home consumption to market-oriented.
Rice has impacted my life because when rice was not there for us, we are not in group. But now, when rice came in, we were able to get, because for me, I've never benefited from any project. As in, rice gave us other tools. We were able to get hoe, we were able to get seedlings, and even these are detergents, which we can wash our hands when the cycle of saving has come.
One of the changes I've seen, people were really scattered, were isolated, but when this project for the groups came, we realized there is some bit of social cohesion. And secondly, the knowledge alone were given. Their testimonies already our farmers in our activity implementation have given, because they used to misuse their resources. But currently, you find now someone making proper use of the resources, maybe by investing in some tangible things that can bring them maybe income in future.
Right now, we have shifted away from dirty, old, traditional ways of practicing agriculture. We are right now scaled up, and I see that most of our members are now trying to grow in lines, yet previously they used to broadcast the seeds. So I think that is one of the innovation and advantages of coming across it, the project of SPRIM.
Well, that is part of the activities currently on the ground. If you go on the ground to weigh what SPRIM is doing, we really want to thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I can't thank you enough. As someone who has visited the districts that are having refugees, I've been to the settlements, the entire 4 zones. At least I know what it means when you have this conversation. Now, to join me this morning, we're having a panel that is going to be discussing a little bit about these conversations, especially about how the pandemic has impacted on the livelihoods and the resilience of the refugees in the host communities, and what can be done from the leadership point of view. Now, with me on my panel, I have Honorable Batarigaya Basil. Good to have you, Honorable. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's here with us and is going to deliberate more with us. Then from the UNHCR Senior Development Officer, we have the Resilient and Solutions Unit. We have Miss Lillian Acheng Otiengo. Good morning. And then we have the LC5 chairperson from Moyo, Mr. Ayama Williams. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, we have the Consortium Programs Manager, Mr. Charles Sekatawa, here with us. And the Honorable Minister is still here with us as well about the issue. Let me start with Honorable Bataringaya. When you look at this from the context of the refugees, and given that you're in Parliament, what needs to be done? Because the impact of COVID-19 has far-reaching effects to all people. But now when we look at the refugees in their category as refugees, what is Parliament doing about this? And we heard from the Minister, rather the Honourable, from the committee of the Presidential Committee, but you as MPs, what is being done to expedite the agenda of the refugees in this country? Yes, it's so.
Thank you once again. My name is Bataringa Basil, Member of Parliament, Kasharu North in Mbarara District. Thank you very much for having invited me here to attend this important meeting. Mbarara District is not affected by refugees. but to some extent we host refugees on the greater Ankole region, because we have refugee camps in the greater Ankole region, particularly in Isingiro district, which was initially part of the Greater Mbarara district. What are MPs doing? MPs work through committees. So I'm not part of the committee that works on refugees, but I'm very sure the committee has a program for working on refugees, because as you've seen, and as you've heard from those that have given us some of the words this morning, refugees, first of all, Uganda as a country, we are privileged to be recognized as a very hospitable country. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, the reverse was true. Ugandans were the ones going outside this country as refugees. Today, Uganda is proud to be a hospitality country hosting the refugees. So all these policies, the good hospitality, the level of peace, is a concerted effort from the three arms of government, Parliament being one of them. As Parliament, we vote or appropriate money to help in the hosting of these refugees. As Parliament, we put in place policies to enable partners, like all the partners involved in this, to have a platform to work with the government to ensure that the refugees are hosted and there is little or no conflict between the refugees and the host communities. Thirdly, we ensure that we talk about environmental issues and educate these very people in the refugee camps not to destroy the environment. Thirdly, when refugees come in, they do not come in selectively. They do not say, these are children, these are elderly, these are educated, these are not educated. So all of them come in, including professors. They are handed into the refugee camps. So from the education point of view, for example, education institutions will not be available, for example, for higher learning refugees. So as government, through the committees of Parliament, we arrange for these people, through committees of Parliament and partners, we arrange for these people who have come at a certain level of education to continue accessing education. So briefly, those are the comments that I can make as of now. Thank you.
Batari Gaya, that means a lot. I want to thank you and your entire district of Mbarara and the other districts neighboring for giving that support. Now, when we go to the UNHCR, Lillian, I want to understand, with all this, how do we build the resilience from these host communities? How do we build the resilience from the host communities that it is cutting across both to them and to the refugees coming in?
Thank you very much. I think, and I would like to thank my colleagues on the panel, and I'm very happy to participate in this discussion today. It is important that we recognize that, I mean, the forced displacement and the refugee presence in the country is within a context of a macroeconomic condition that is quite difficult and challenging. And for a country like Uganda to be able to host this kind of people who are running away for their lives is, like we say, and everyone has said, is commendable. However, there are certain challenges that could be unique for this particular population. But broadly, we find that the host community and the refugees have almost the same, similar conditions. Yeah. Particularly if you look at the West Nile and the northern region, where we also have refugee settlements. Now, in the West Nile area, where the land dynamics are different, in the southwest is a little bit different. In the southwest and the midwest, we have refugees being hosted in government land, gazetted settlements. But in the West Nile, you find that refugees live side by side with the host population, because the host population has provided their land, right, for this purpose. The challenges are the same that affect the nationals and the refugees. One is the availability of assets, availability of assets for production, whether it's the land, the amount of land they have to produce, in the context of maybe climatic conditions that are also changing. We also have opportunities that are quite limited in these areas in terms of employment. Yeah, these are challenges that are there. We're also talking about things like, for those who are trying to engage in agricultural production, and like I say, just like every other Ugandan, they are facing, challenges along the chain, whether it's going to be, access to quality seeds, access to, sufficient technical or appropriate training or technologies, access to, value addition facilities, or even access to markets. So these are challenges that we see that both refugees and the host population are facing. Affordable financing is the other thing. For those who are attempting to do something, there's an issue of access to affordable financing. Skills is another thing, and I think one of our colleagues and one of the, I think the EU, when they opened up, they talked about the need for skilling to be quite, you have to be multi-sectoral. Livelihood is quite cross-cutting. It's not just, it's in a sector. So when you have skills, we have a variety of entities that are training on skills, but these skills, are they matching the market demand? That's an issue. And so in terms of how we are seeing not only UNHCR, but UNHCR with its partners, with the government and development partners addressing these challenges to enhance the resilience and self-reliance of refugees and their hosting communities. First of all, the honor is on the government, and they are doing something. And we did mention the enabling environment, which allows refugees freedom of movement.
You are causing psychological problems because that adjustment cannot easily be received or accepted by the beneficiaries. And this particular program is trying to address this gap. What Supreme is looking at is to build capacities of the refugees and the host population to be able to stand on their own with or without external interventions. And the refugee communities and the host communities are put in groups. Of course, these are previously existing groups. They are supported with the skills, with modern agronomic practices. We realized, much as a country, we have taken agriculture as a backbone, the economic backbone of this country. But if you go up country and conduct a study, you will realize agriculture is not seen as economically viable engagement.
Why are they not seeing it as a viable venture?
The cost of production is very high, and the income is little. So it does not make business sense. And the cost of production is high because our farmers are still trapped. Most of our farmers are trapped in the old methods, on the old traditional methods of doing agriculture. So the project, this particular program, is putting the farmers in a group and teaching farmers modern skills, modern practices, that even on a limited land, you can get so much. You can get returns that you desire. And this group model also supports technological transfer, because you are able to learn from a group and replicate the knowledge
to the other.
Yes, on your own.
Are the local leaders supporting you, LOC5? The good thing you're the chairperson of the Association of the LOC5s in the West Nile. But are the local leaders, the councillors, the women councillors from the grassroots, are they supporting this? Because most of these kind of programs are frustrated if there is no political will from the grassroots. Do we have that?
We have a very strong, very good political will. And that's why that explains the peaceful coexistence between the nationals and the refugee communities. We are not at war. The communities have given a land to host the refugees. They continue to go to the same markets. They go to the same service points. They go sometimes to the same schools and the same hospitals.
Okay.
So we do not complain. That's why I said we do not see the refugee community as a burden. The skills that are given to the youth, vocational skills, if it was not for COVID, because they should have reported. But COVID, of course, held back the process. The youth are given, under this program of Supreme, they are going to be given skills, relevant skills, and after attaining the skills, they will be attached for industrial training, for internship program, to enhance outside classroom environment skills. And thereafter, this program will also give them tools, the tools that they require for correct application of the skills they have acquired.
Thank you so much. That is the LC5 of Moyo District, Mr. Anyama Williams. Now, just briefly?
Briefly. I wanted to also appreciate the issue of the Challenge Fund. There is the block grant and also the Challenge Fund. One of our challenges in the private sector is limited access to credit, to financing, to credit facilities. And you really know that a refugee does not have collateral security to access financial services from commercial banks. But this program is providing support. One, for the groups, they are able to access finances through provision of a kind of seed capital. They also do their own savings. From the savings, they can do lending services. They provide security by themselves because they depend on a trust. So this is something that can be a turning point. And also they set goals. Every group member must have short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals to achieve. And these goals are measured and monitored over time.
Okay.
So the group members are kept on course. I think it's one of the best interventions, but of course it calls for commitments from every duty bearer for this to succeed.
Okay. Thank you so much. Because of time, allow me now to talk to Charles Sekatawa, who happens to be the Consortium Programs Manager. First of all, Charles, I want to thank you for the work well done. Lydian Algeron alluded to something about the skills. Are we're going to use that microphone there. I want to understand the skills that we're going to give the youth in this training, and the refugees to be exact. Are they in tandem with the market demand? Because earlier on, Lydian said that we have a lot of skill sets that you're giving out, but are they needed on the market? Then the other thing is, I want to understand the model you're using that they can access credit, those who are going to do business.
Thank you so much, moderator, Andrew. My name is Charles Sekatawa, the Consortium Program Manager. Allow me to thank the European Union, who has enabled this program to exist, and also the consortium members who have provided part of the funding. Just to mention that we got 81% of the funding from the European Union, and then the balance came from the partners. We are very grateful. And also, of course, I want to thank the colleague from the LC5 chairman of Moyo. When I hear refugees are a responsibility, not a burden, I get encouraged that we are working with people who really appreciate what we do. But to come back to your question of are they relevant? Are they going to help them?
The skills.
The skills, yes. You're right. I mean, a lot of skills people have gotten probably have not helped them. But as a program, as a SPROM program, we did market assessment. We analyzed the market to see which jobs are available and which ones would the youth love. So before they went to school, we had to do that assessment, and I'm glad to report that everybody has gone to the skill that they loved, and the school that we have checked to see that it's needed in the market. There are new skills like solar repairs, as opposed to carpentry. The youth are looking at these things that were not there before, and they're very much like repairing of phones and things that you would think they were not important 5 years ago. So yes, of course the challenge is we have to get curriculums to make sure that these are trained well and people are able to, when they get out, they're able to be employed. But yes, the skills are important, and they are in line with the needs of the market.
Then the LOC5 again, Aljuron alluded to, and I really want to thank you, Mr. Nyama, with the entire West Nile region for allowing access to land where they can practice the farming they're doing. I see there is a training that is going to take over 1,000 of them into farming. What model are we using that coexists with the host communities? Because they shouldn't be clashing. We're having 1,000 of them, especially when it gets to access to farming land for refugees. What model are you using there?
Thank you so much. We are using the peaceful coexistence model. We take them through training for peace. As you know, that if people are staying together from different countries with different interests, there's bound to be, a bit of conflict. But I'm glad after we've taken them through this training, we've interviewed them, talked to them to see how they coexist. I remember when we were starting the program, we talked to the refugees and the host community who expressed a bit of fears. But recently when we were talking to them, we've seen mixed groups. We've seen people saving together, and if you do like saving together, sharing responsibility, you become cohesive, like you live together harmoniously. Of course, we'll continue to work on this because it's very important that the two work together, and the trainings will continue to make sure that the two communities are there. But the good news is that we have, as a project, I want to testify to the political will that I get from all the local government and other stakeholders.
Let's talk about the Challenge Fund. And there is something else. I didn't want to just, speed bump it. The Enterprise Development Grants. How are they going to access this? How are you capturing their data? And is their data safe? When it gets to data safety, I'm a bit sensitive because these are refugees and they're dealing with a lot of issues here. But how do they access the enterprise development grants, and how safe is their data, and how are you capturing that data?
Thank you so much. I'm glad you brought out the issue of the sensitivity of data.
Yes.
The donor, the European Union, has shared with us a policy that we are following religiously.
Okay.
And of course, World Vision, RISE, SNV, and ZOA, we all have data policies. And we recognize how important how important it is to keep people's data. So we are collecting this data in confidence, and we are securing it. Every data set is password protected, and it's not shared across emails. We share links, because if you share it across emails, you will be bound to share people's data, which will compromise their privacy. But talking about how would they access the Challenge Fund, the enterprise grant. The enterprise grant is sort of competitive. We will select 1,000 members of the SDCs who will undergo a training. After they have undergone a training, they will be asked to do proposals, of which 764 will succeed. But in this training, they will be given skills. How do you run your business? How do you conceive the idea? And how do you use the money?
First of all, how do you write the proposal?
There is that issue also.
Yes.
So we will talk about, take them through simple ways. We are talking about enterprise grants. These are people who have ordinary business ideas, like a saloon, like maybe you want to deal in fish, carrying of fish. But how do you put it on paper? And what if I'm illiterate? So we have specialists in business who will be able to take them through using simple ways. It's not going to be pages and pages, but we hope in the end it will be a starting point. It will be a stimulus to them to be able to do business as the Supreme project continues.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those watching us on NTV, I want to assure you that I, for one, am very interested in this, and I'll follow up the Challenge Fund, and you'll be getting these stories as and when they happen. Let me go back a little bit to Lillian. Lillian, earlier on you alluded to something that took my attention about affordable financing. This is a critical issue. We're not just going to speed bump about it. How best can we make sure that even after this program, there is still affordable financing? As a country, what approach could we possibly tap into to make sure that affordable financing and credit access to refugees is still affordable?
Okay, thank you. I'll have time to answer that. But I'd also like to just acknowledge that Uganda, being a country that is actually a pioneer or implementing the comprehensive response, where every party, every partner is involved in refugee response, and that's how we see new entrants. And I keep saying that because it's been over the last 5 years or 4 years, that's where we see the EU's coming in strong, particularly on the development angle with investing in refugee matters, the oil banks, and the rest, we call them non-traditional because, as I say, predominantly we've had humanitarian approaches. We have also seen an increase in private sector and interest in the refugee setup. And private sector with regard to, the aggregators, they're starting to get interested in these farmers who are able to grow, whether it's high value product, whether it's sunflower or, green pepper, even as basic as maize or beans, where there's or rice, But you're also seeing, among the private sector, also seeing financial institutions coming in.
Coming through.
Yes. And the financial institutions, notably, are the local banks. We have some regional banks. We have small microfinance institutions that are coming in. I'd like to mention a few of them because at least as a unitary, we have a view, a general view of what's really going on. And so what I would like to really say is the financial institutions, whether national or whether commercial or whether the local, must continue to have innovative products. Innovative products that are able, first of all, to address the really unique needs of the refugees, given that the social cultural context are a bit different. They are also perceived to be a transit population, right? However, we also see this practice, and I think this program, you've supremely talking about the group approach, whereby the supporting groups and VSLAs, village savings loan associations, are forming, and some of these private financing institutions are absorbing them, are banking them, and they have their own records locally. I would like to say that as at September this year, the refugee response had about over 10,000 village saving loans associations in this refugee response among the refugees, with a saving, of over $800,000, to be honest. So this is what is of interest to these private and finance institutions, small finance institutions. So if they can create a product that can take care of their, their low ability to save, but also still capture that particular market. Products that take care of the fact that they may or may not, have collateral, and as well as use their history, use their history so that they can be seen as creditworthy. Because I think part of what makes the credit expensive is the risk aspect, I believe. So if they're seen as high risk and flight risk, then they tend to give them very expensive credit. But if they use their credit history from these village saving groups they have, which their records are there, then they should be able to rationally see that these are groups that are bankable. But secondly, is also calling for the development partners and international finance institutions that can actually provide guarantee systems or de-risking for these microfinance institutions. And I think some of them do that, the existing ones, but we need more. Because the minute the de-risking comes in, then the credit is kind of made cheaper. So the commercial bank, which basically does business, sees it as an opportunity to, extend their services to this population, which is predominantly not very, not very able to borrow loans by themselves. So I think that's what I'd like to say with regard to what we can do. Continue providing, not incentives, but de-risking the entities that have expertise in lending and providing credits to these groups. These institutions and these financial institutions should also develop products that are innovative enough that capture the context. Then I think with that hope we can see more credit access, more informed choices, and they have to be coupled with financial literacy. Some of these institutions must couple their credit, the products, with financial literacy for these groups, whether literate or not. And that's what we mean by innovative approaches that are responsive to this context. Some of them are illiterate, but they know how to do their maths, So that's what I'll say for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lillian. LC5, I see you're burning to respond to that in a bit, but let me talk to Honorable Bataringaya Basil. From the education perspective, all this is coming to create a sustainable community where one could possibly afford a meal a day and as they wait for the next day, or even become better. We're opening up schools in Jan as a country. From the education perspective, given that all this that is being done, it's create security for the refugees in their communities. Given that we're preparing for the schools to open up, and you're very passionate about education, what kind of ripple effect do you see from this program pouring into the education department? What big effect do you see from this program in tandem with the education department, where you're very passionate about? Yes, it's on.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. Yes, as I said earlier, when refugees are coming, they do not sort themselves out.
Of course.
So we are going like this. So they all come from the youngest who is not in school, to professors who are in universities. Sometimes those at higher level of education are advantaged to be absorbed in the country, in universities, because their services are needed. However, the bulk of the refugees find themselves in very perilous situations. They have been in school, they need education, the parents want their children to continue with education. The whole world at large would like these people to study and become responsible citizens wherever they are in this world. So in this country, for us, I want to tell you that we've taken it as a responsibility, as my colleague said, because any of us can be a candidate. Last night, I was watching TV, I think it was NTV. I saw refugees had just come in, now they are carrying their things, some are going back. The situation is not yet settled, they can easily come back. So it is a very absurd situation. So this is very disturbing in an education environment. So why do we establish education institutions? It's because some of the refugee camps on government land, for example, are being established like permanently. In case the situation normalizes, people can go back. But these education institutions will become a source of education or education institutions for the host communities. And in the area like northern Uganda, northwest Uganda, where the problem is land belonging to the people, I'm so happy that the communities have realized that they can also become candidates like anybody else and hosted. Those refugees are not looked at them as a burden, but as a responsibility, as part of them in a community. Because you can cross the other side anytime and become a refugee. like these ones are coming. So in government, government must respond to a situation that arises. First of all, these communities are where the host communities themselves are already not having the best facilities.
True.
They have the same problems like the refugees are going to find. They don't have water, they don't have roads, they don't have those education institutions, those host communities. So when development partners or assistance partners come in, like the European Union and all these partners, to me, government should welcome them and bring together their effort to make sure that, one, the refugees are made comfortable. But in the process, the host communities are also benefiting by getting these facilities that they originally did not have. When the refugee situation normalizes and the refugees return to their original countries, then these people can continue enjoying the facilities that they originally did not have.
Oh, yeah.
So it is very good for government to pay attention, especially to education, because the majority of the people who are in the refugee status at that time are usually of school-going age.
Thank you so much. Elsifa, if you wanted to clarify on something when we were talking about affordable financing, I could see you nodding. You are like, this is a very critical issue, especially after this project runs. How do we keep these people sustainably running the enterprises they've started?
Thank you very much. First of all, the enterprise selection processes are well guided by a very serious analysis, the cost-benefit analysis of every enterprise that is selected. And this is impacting skills in our people that even tomorrow, not only the refugees, but even the nationals, that on your own, your decision-making abilities are enhanced so that you make the correct choices in selection of enterprises. Then the financing part, as my sister from UNSARA said, is really very, very critical. The history is starting from this group work, the clusters. Once you write very good history about yourself in terms of integrity, in terms of getting loans and the repayment track records, even the bigger commercial institutions, banks, can grant you credit facilities. So the concept is really very good, but also most important is leave along the refugees. Even ourselves, many Ugandans go to access credit facilities sometimes even when they are not ready.
Yeah, true.
They are either driven by certain factors. You do not exactly understand whether you need credit facility to solve a particular problem at a time. So you say you go for salary loans, you go for other loans when you are not very ready. So this program is helping the nationals and the refugees to understand. Everyone has to set goals. First of all, individual goals. The individual goals are translated into household goals. The household goals are now translated also into the bigger community or the bigger picture. This helps us, and then they are measurable. After 1 year, after 2 years, if you want to build a better house accommodation facility, you want to educate your children, you want to acquire assets, it can be measured over time, whether indeed you are able to achieve what you have set as your own goals the last 3 years time. So this is what in the financing area, but also the challenge fund.
In 1 minute.
Yes, it is the challenge fund is a competitive one, open even to the nationals.
Okay, to the host community.
Yes, open to the host communities also. you are able to compete. Your business idea is funded once it qualifies to be funded.
Okay.
And especially, we have very many opportunities. Right now, the World Food Program with other partners, they're trying to reduce down the amount of food given to the refugees. And this is being replaced with the cash transfers. Instead of giving food relief, they are now giving cash. Now, they are creating purchasing power in the country, even in the host communities. Because you are giving more money in the hands of people, but they have to go to the same markets with the nationals and compete for food. So this program is looking at also enhancing the production capacities of the nationals and the refugee communities, so that they in themselves, we can be beneficiaries of this great opportunity. If we are able to produce adequate, not only for food for consumption, but also extra for the market, then we can benefit from this huge sum of money which is being put in the pockets of refugees, and they come to the same markets, and we are able to satisfy the market requirements.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anyama. Now, back to you, Mr. Sekatawa. I need to hear about the issue of inclusion. The biggest number of the refugees are children and women. I need to hear the inclusion. What mode are you using to make sure that women are very inclusive in this? But not only that, there are those with disabilities and impairments. How are you capturing all that?
Thank you so much, moderator. Yes, we ensure that everybody is included. And I'm glad to mention that after selecting the beneficiaries, 70% of them are women and 30% are men. And also looking at the selection criteria, how do you make it to be our beneficiary? Yeah, one of the criteria was looking at female-headed households. As you know, female-headed households, they're less resilient. And also we looked at child-headed. There are some households that are headed by children. And we also looked at households with people with chronic illness, because if you're spending a lot of money on medicine, then you are not able even to be competitive or to get credit. So the selection criteria helped us to make sure we got the right people. And I'm glad to mention we were able to get 27,000 individuals who are meeting the criteria. And of course, we are looking forward to the cooperation and the dedication of the partners to continue supporting them.
Okay. Now, that is the inclusion bit. Now, let's talk about those with disabilities.
Yes, some SDC groups, the Savings and Development Cluster groups, some members are blind, some others have other physical disabilities. They are very much welcome. And we actually encourage the members to help them out on things like writing and planning and discussing. And as the project moves on, we hope that they will be moving away from this sort of situation where they're in. So we didn't have anything that stopped a disabled or any blind or someone person to join. We encouraged them, and as I told you, the groups were already existing. I'm so thankful to the communities of West Nile. Because
they were already organized.
Yeah, they were very organized because 800 of our groups were existing already.
Wow.
They had already been formed, and the project has only formed 200. So it means that they already realized the need for group approach, how to approach this as a team. And of course, they had already included their colleagues. That means the community recognizes the disadvantages that the other colleagues have, and they don't leave them behind.
Wow.
As development partners, obviously, we have to encourage this, and we're very grateful to the donors that give us the funds to make sure that this inclusive project continues.
Well, there you go. That is Mr. Charles Sekatawa, the Consortium Programs Manager. Because of time, the conversation is ending here. I want to thank those who have been online. I was following the hashtag for the first 40 minutes or so, and I can really see there is a lot of positivity about the refugee conversation in this country. Again, I want to thank the Ugandans along the border posts, those in Vura. I was in Arua last week, and I saw a couple of you around the Vura area supporting the movement back and forth. The cross-border business that is ongoing is very remarkable. I want to thank you, but for the SPRIM project that is going to run around, we are having 268 those who have been identified enterprises, and the program will support them with tools and seeds to set up 268 demonstration farms or gardens to increase income and contribute to employment generations. Of these, we're looking at 1,000 youths who have been identified and screened to join the business institutions, that is next month, to enhance their skills and subsequently billing to the private sector. So I want to thank all the donors, the supporting partners, European Union. I really want to thank you, Nadia. You send our best regards to the support structure that side. We are very remarkably and grateful to their support that comes through. World Vision, ZOA and SNV and the Rise of West Nile. But not only that, we want to thank the government of Uganda for allowing the refugees to come here and they flourish and they tap into the different potentials they have. To the host communities, I'm forever indebted as a Ugandan. The support you give cannot go unregistered. As a Ugandan and as a journalist, my job is to amplify those conversations. I will follow up the SPRIM Challenge Fund. I'll come on the ground and we'll make this conversation actually go more, even better. Let's use the World Vision mojos in the host communities. I've trained with them. I've seen how resilient they are on the ground. Please tap these stories, put them online, and let's amplify them from our end. My name is Andrew Chamagiro, and I really want to thank for all of you who have been a part of this. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much, Mr. Anyama, the LC5 from Moyo District. And I want to thank you, Lilian Achego, from the UNHCR, that is the Development Officer from the Resilience and Solution Unit. And not forgetting Honorable Batarigaya Basil from Kashari, the Honorable Member of Parliament. Thank you so much. And you're a great viewer. I really want to thank you. But as we're finalizing this conversation, the question then comes back to you. What are you doing about the refugees in your area to help them flourish and bounce back to life? Good afternoon.